Gaslight, Gatekeep, Girlboss is a wonderful meme that I'm sure, like many others, you've been enjoying because, I mean, it just has good vibes, you know? Now, despite seeming like just another internet meme, there's actually some analysis that can be done about the Gaslight, Gatekeep, Girlboss meme. From where it originates, to Gen Z's tendency to commentate on the generations before us and their shortcomings and where does that come from, as well as the general concept of a girl boss, the misogyny within it, as well as a lot of the context around it. So this meme stems from the Live, Laugh, Love meme, which we absolutely love tearing apart, and it also has to do with a lot of the same middle-class, middle-aged white women who tend to also partake in MLMs and those sorts of things, and who created the girl boss culture and like all those Facebook groups and stuff. So a lot of people began to kind of rip on a lot of this girl boss culture because a lot of it just isn't great. Take all of the negative sides of hustle culture, add in the problematic and predatory tendencies of MLMs, and the general annoying tone that a lot of these people tend to have, and you get a melting pot of problematic behavior and things ripe to make fun of. So, we got the Gaslight, Gatekeep, Girlboss meme. A lot of people would just kind of quote it, some people would say it when there were applicable situations, some people said it to some of their favorite characters, or doing those like triangles of who's Gaslight, Gatekeep, Girlboss. Tag yourself with your friends. I would like the record to reflect that I am the Girlboss, and I'm very proud of this. As the meme originates from making fun of a lot of the Gen X, and honestly at this point it's slowly becoming into millennials as well, let's talk about how Gen Z likes to critique the generations before us. A lot of our favorite memes that have lasted the longest do come from making fun of those before us. Okay Boomer, it's pretty classic. Making fun of those people who hate their wives, even to a degree the I'm not like other girls stuff rips on both us from before as well as millennials. There's definitely two ways that you can look at this. You can either A, say that we're trying to learn from those before us and not make the same mistakes, or B, that we're just cynical and like to hate. And honestly, both are definitely true. I think TikTok and Twitter are definitely accentuating a lot of the more negative and hateful sides of Gen Z. We can be absolutely ruthless and hateful. However, I think that a lot of these memes do try to come from a place of humor as well as a more positive spin on things, rather than just purely making fun of these people, as largely they won't see these memes anyway. It's about trying to improve us and not take the same route. Hopefully it doesn't backfire like in the 70s where the hippies were like, we're anti-capitalist, and then as soon as they got old they became capitalists and ruined the world for us. Let's hope it's not like that. But I think that it's a very similar concept. Gen Z is definitely seen as one of the most progressive generations, if not the most progressive generation alive right now. We call for social change. We are the ones who are largely, even in our teens, becoming aware and fighting for climate activism, against racism, and trying to fix the broken economic system that we have right now. And I think that the memes that we partake in definitely speak to this kind of idea that we have. So you agree that XYZ thing is true or a problem is literally about activism, but also is just a meme. Oftentimes we cite memes when we're trying to work for activism. And this is a meme built around trying to point out issues with our current society, although it's not really a society problem, but just kind of problems that some areas have, and trying to prevent that happening in the future. Because while it does kind of just seem like a meme, it also brings awareness to a lot of the issues with MLMs that they try to build you up, well, in reality, it's really a negative and deceitful thing. The okay boomer thing calls to how many people are stuck in their ways, and we need to change and have progressive, ever-changing ideas in order to actually progress and find change. The girl boss mentality and feminism and sexism also are deeply connected. Whilst it might at first appear that the girl boss mentality would be a feminist ideal, and if anything is working towards that, in reality it is quite the opposite. Calling yourself a female boss, a female CEO, putting that add-on in front of it, while it might in some cases seem empowering, it oftentimes has the opposite effect. It dumbs it down. You aren't just a CEO, you're a female CEO. And because of our current society, the context with that is oftentimes negative. It also further plays into many of the kind of like vocal or communicative things that women tend to fall into in order to dumb ourselves down. Whenever you're asking for something, whereas a man or someone who just doesn't care or hasn't been raised in this way would say, I need you to do XYZ. Oftentimes women will ask it in a much more dumbed down version. I was wondering if you could please do XYZ if you have the time. I would really appreciate it. Thanks, with a little smiley face. It's unnecessary. It oftentimes leads to people taking you less seriously, but oftentimes is also necessary. Because if you just speak in the same way that they speak to you, or if you just speak normally, then people think you're a rude bitch. So you have to communicate like that. Although nowadays, I think there's many people trying to call out this thing, similarly to how I am, of how it is very sexist that we're forced to talk this way when really it's a workplace. We need things to get done. We shouldn't have to make it all flowery in order for that to happen. Something that I actually kind of realized because of Tiffany Ferg is a very specific use of girl. So before what I was saying, I was using the word female, because at least that's a little bit better. But I think it's very specific, or at least talks a lot, that we specifically say girl boss. Girls are children. They are young children. You don't say girl to refer to a grown woman unless you're trying to be derogatory and purposefully bring her down and infantilize, unless you're trying to be mean. And even in these people who are quote-unquote trying to empower themselves, they are purposefully using a word that does the opposite, that brings a connotation of youth, of innocence, but also of being unaware, of not really knowing things, of not being exactly capable of being a boss. Why is it that this empowering thing is then brought on with those connotations? It again, does the opposite of empower you. It also very specifically has the connotation of MLMs before anything else. Why is it that the first thing we think of is either A, deceitful people trying to get others into a pyramid scheme, or B, people dumb enough to get themselves involved in a pyramid scheme? Like, at least have the first idea of girl boss be something like Elle Woods, or maybe an actual real-life CEO or boss. But no, the word girl boss is associated with MLMs before it's associated with females in power. Again, I think that really speaks to the fact that girl boss is not an empowering thing, because the only people who use it are not people who are trying to actually sell you on empowerment, but are trying to sell you on a scheme for them to get money at your own expense. So while yes, I'm sure ultimately the entire point of Gaslight, Gatekeep, Girlboss was just to make fun of all the MLM Facebook moms, I think that there is a much deeper discussion to be had about how women are seen when in positions of power, as well as how we position ourselves whenever we are trying to be seen in a position of power or even of slight respect. It's hard to pose solutions of things that really need a much larger societal change. However, if there is one thing that I can pose to you, it is to try and change how you talk about things. Rather than calling yourself a girl boss, you are simply a boss. You are a CEO, you are a leader of a business, or whatever position. You don't have to be labeled as a female while doing that, although that is, in often cases, an important and valuable and hard to do thing. As well as reducing those filler words to soften your language whenever you are trying to place yourself in a higher position than someone else. Rather than asking with a please or adding a bunch of if you cans, just ask for what you need. It might be hard at first, but for that kind of change, we all need to be slowly working towards it so that it becomes the norm. The norm doesn't change just because, it changes because people, normal people, work to change it. And that might seem like a very grand thing that you as a singular person can't do, but the whole idea with many of these things is that it takes many people to do them. And God, this has gotten into a totally different place than you probably expected when I said I was going to talk about the Girlboss, gatekeep, gaslight. I mixed up the order meme, but I feel like it's still important to say, and if this happens to be the avenue in which I introduce this, then that's the avenue in which I introduce it. Anyway, please like, comment, and subscribe because it really does help and I like hearing from you guys. And I'll see you all next week. Bye! My bangs are so uneven. You would think you would do this before you start filming, but I'm a good old YouTuber who doesn't do that.